Hi, friends and family. It's Mercedes. So, I realized I'm married to a husband that does a lot of broadcasts, and very rarely do people get to hear from me. So, if you guys like my little broadcast, then I think I'll do some more of them. And I'm going to try to do it on this page, my public page, instead of my personal profile. But, it's just unique sometimes to see just all the different opportunities that, God gives us. And I just had this awesome day yesterday, so I just wanted to share it with you guys. It started at 5 a.m. and the day before I got a phone call from somebody that was like, hey, I want you to come up, take a look at and hear the press conference at the National Press Club that we're doing about building the wall and funding the wall, and something I'm passionate about as a Texan. And so I flew up here to DC. I got a night at the Trump paid for, which is crazy. And then I just had the opportunity to hear a lot of different stories and testimonies really yesterday of everyday Americans that have been affected by the wall and just the kind of the crisis there on the border that so much of us live disconnected from. I'm going to put out a couple of different interviews that I have done with a few of the people there, some influencers, and like I said, but a lot of them just angel moms and dads who've lost relatives to illegal aliens. Mainly is interesting, a drunk driving accident. So, there's a lot there. And then also we heard from a sheriff that talked to us about, just the drug crisis of, fentanyl coming across the border and how dangerous that is. So lots of interesting information. Like I said, I did a couple different interviews, and I'm probably going to write a article on it. God kept bringing a couple different verses to me. There's a few. One's interesting in Ezekiel, where it says the Lord sought someone who would build a wall for him, but he found no man. So that's an interesting verse. And then there's another one in Proverbs that talks about a man without self-control is like a city without walls. And so I think that kind of speaks to just lawlessness to a certain extent, and corruption, which I think is really some of the symptoms and the issues we're dealing with as we, watch people enter our country, illegally. They already come in that way. And so you kind of think there's a symptom of a problem there, I think, with probably a spiritual issue and corruption within even the own Mexican government, where people are coming here to either try to get a better life. And, there's a majority of them who are like that. But then there's also a majority of people that really are just lawless and part of different cartels and evil organizations that you just hear about. And you guys, some of the stuff that was shared, just horrendous stuff. They found a 10-year-old girl, Border Patrol found a 10-year-old girl left for dead, and they flew her into a medical facility, and when they went to see what's wrong with her, they did a rape kit, and they found 30 different samples of DNA inside of her, which means obviously she'd been raped 30 times and then left for dead. So there's a lot of abuse of women and children that's happening, even just within the Mexican population, that they're being brought over against their will, and not just trafficked, but just abused. And there's another story. It's the woman who arranged it, her name's Aisha Love, and she organized a group of moms to go down to the border, and she called it the Moms Caravan. And so everyday women, just like me or just like you, and they went down to the border, and while they were there, they got a tour. And so they took them to an elementary school that is literally right on the border. And you could see the illegal aliens trying to come across. In fact, when they were there, there's probably a group of 30 or 40 women. There's two people who tried to join the group, and they realized, oh wait, you're not with our group. So, it's a real prevalent problem. But anyways, right down there next to the school is something called the Rape Tree. And the Rape Tree is basically a monument where men leave women's lingerie, IDs, little trinkets, necklaces of women who've been taken advantage of and abused on their journey into Mexico. So these are things that you're not going to hear about in the media. You're not going to hear about it. And I think that's kind of part of the problem, that when we talk about a humanitarian crisis, everybody says humanitarian crisis, there's real women and children who are suffering because we don't have a strong border, and because there are men who think, oh yeah, we can make this trek and we'll do anything within our power to get there. One of the ladies told me that, you know, it was interesting. It was an interesting statement, but that Mexican women hate America, and one of the reasons they really hate it is because their husbands will say, oh, we're going to America for a better life, and we'll send money home, and they go to this send money, and maybe it's for 2 months, and then that money stops, and then, you know, they never hear from them again. And so I just think that there's some real symptomatic issues, honestly spiritual issues, that we're dealing with, of corruption. And in so many ways, you know, as Donald Trump's made, you know, America great again, this is something I said in one of the interviews, is that, you know, every nation, just like me or just like you, we have an identity, right? And they're so unique and they're so special, and we all have our own gifts, our talents and abilities, but every nation does too. So America's destiny is very different than Mexico's, and very different than Canada's, and very different than, you know, England. And so we all have these unique identities, and our nations do too. And so when we say make America great again and taking national pride in who we are as a country, that there's a destiny there for Mexico that needs to be called out. There's corruption that needs to be overthrown, just like in our deep state, there's corruption in Mexico that needs to be overthrown. So anyways, I just kind of wanted to share some of those insights of what I saw yesterday. And then, you know, just the crazy, you know, you're in the right place at the right time when kind of you I just got a phone call. And I don't know what happens when I get a phone call to you guys. So anyways, but it was so funny because I was walking through the hotel of the Trump, and I ran to a friend, and he's like, what are you here for? I'm like, what are you here for? And so he's like, oh, well, I'm here for the Storks Ball, which is an amazing organization. I just learned all about it last night. It's called Save the Storks. And what these guys do is they have these really nice Mercedes, like 16 passenger vans. And what they do is they convert it, and they do ultrasounds right there in the van, and they park them outside of abortion clinics. And so women come in and they get to see the baby, they see the baby's hands, they see the baby's face, their little feet, they hear the heartbeat, and they realize this is a child, this isn't a clump of cells. And what was so interesting is they said that the language that a lot of these women use, young women, right, that they didn't even realize, they're like, this isn't a clump of cells. When they're sitting there, they go, wait, is that a foot? Is that a hand? Is that the heartbeat? And then they realize this is actually a child, and that they really don't know that it's a life, and they really believe, they've been told for so long that it's just a clump of cells. They think it's just like a blob in there, like it would be a cyst. So I thought that was incredibly eye-opening. But listen to these statistics, okay? The statistics are that 9 out of 10 women that step foot on one of their buses choose life, and they choose to keep the baby. And I mean, you talk about boots on the ground, people that are really doing something in such a crucial topic, such as abortion. And they have a vision that one day, you know, the idea of having an abortion will be so far from our minds, a society and a culture, because we realize there is life and there's value in life. And that was another interesting thing sitting in the room, is just how many people loved life. And I think sometimes we just sit in I don't know what it is, but sometimes there's just like an atmosphere that can hang over your house or hang over your city, or it just feels hopeless and lifeless and depressing. And I don't, you know, you just like want to shake it off sometimes. But man, there was something about sitting in there's like a ballroom last night that I ended up going to, but in the midst of that ballroom, they're just celebrating life, that every life has value, every life, not, you know, everybody who's considered normal, but every life. And that's the one in the womb, that's the one, you know, if there's some type of handicap or disability, that every life has value. And so it was just really, I just can't explain it. It was just so positive and so uplifting, and you just walk away from it and you're like, yes, like I want to live, like life is amazing. Not that I suffer with that, but it's just like, you know, it's just like anything that's in somebody's way, I guess is what I'm saying. Anything that's like depressing, downcast, sad, you know, it's just like life's too short. I'm here for a reason. You're here for a reason. And it's just, we celebrate everything, even in the midst of incongruence and the idea of like kind of enduring the contradiction of what you see for your life versus where you're at, that your life has value, you matter. And it was just a beautiful spirit about that room. So And I put some pictures up, so there were some pretty cool people in the audience too. The vice president stopped by. I walked in, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of security here. And then they're like, we have a special guest, and the vice president and the second lady walked in, so that was pretty cool. And then they even had Stephen Curtis Chapman, which I was like, and he sang Fingerprints of God, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this song from like 10 years ago. I used to jam out to it on the bus home from come home from high school. So anyways, it was a really cool night and just an amazing day. But the lesson learned is, you know, if you're coming to DC and you're staying at the Trump, prepare for divine appointments, because I didn't have a gala dress, so I was like, I had to go to like TJ Maxx and get one for like, you know, like in the last minute dash just to get dressed and get there. So anyways, just such a cool day, and I wanted to do more of this. I know Larry does a lot of broadcasts, and then I work for Lance, and Lance does a lot of broadcasts, so I like to give it behind the scenes. If you guys like it, I'll do more of them. But anyways, so thanks for joining me. I'll go share this on my personal page now, and you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. I'm gonna go to the March for Life now, because that's happening today. I don't know if I could flip it around, but you could see everybody, you know, this is the metro here, and everybody's getting out, walking down the street to the March for Life. So pretty cool, right? I don't know how to turn it back around. I just turned it. Let's turn it back, and it's me again. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.